Okay, welcome to the Tabletop Sportcast Live, and this week I am sharing my monthly planning that I use a tool called Mural for. If we go back to like my dashboard for Mural, you can see what I've got basically right now is just a free account, and I use this for a lot of different looks into my tabletop. I've set up a couple of different boards, but I pretty much am only using this one right here, the tabletop session planning. This will allow you with a free account. I believe you can do up to 5 boards, and I really do think that it's a really useful way of making some visual reminders for your project planning. So I'm going to click in here and we'll go into my mural. I'm going to actually zoom out and kind of give you a feel for what we've got here. Now, I've started using this back in October of 2021, as you can see here. The way that the mural works is it allows you to set up different frameworks. You can select frameworks over here. They've got a lot of different things, like this layouts. This is just like a free form. You got a 2x2, 3x3 grids. You can even do like lines, circles. I've used a couple of the agile ones to try to look at like workflows, but what I basically settled in on for the most part was just taking this general calendar view, and they load in all the different monthly calendars. You can also do a weekly look, but I typically use these monthly ones to set up my monthly sessions. Now what we'll do is we'll zoom back in. I'm going to show you, we're going to start with my monthly view. Well, actually, let's take a look at the quarterly view first. As you can see, I can move around and zoom in on different parts of this board. There's also this little navigation screen down here where I can zoom in on a specific piece of the board. So we'll come into this one, zoom in a little bit more. And what you're looking at now is my 2022 annual plan. Now, my annual plan, what I'm doing here is tracking the different projects that I want to complete. And I use this color coding, post-its. You can see that most of the time when you are working on these frameworks, you'll select different types of post-its that you want to use. I can choose different types of text, like a title or text box or a comment. There are also different shapes and connectors, so if you want to do like a workflow or something, you could do that as well. Different icons can be used, but I don't get into a lot of these different things when I'm putting things together. I might eventually, but right now I'm sticking pretty much with just basic post-it views. Close this out. So here what we have on my annual plan is I've created all of my projects, and I'm basically aligning them. You can see I'm using this like framework that is got just a couple of different sections, and I've set them up for the 4 quarters. And then even though I don't have lines here, what I basically have is like the first month of the quarter, second month of the quarter, third month of the quarter. The different colors just help me organize, like when I get to my monthly planning, as we'll see in a little bit, like which projects the events align to. These circles that you see here, I'm using those for the cooperative projects that I do. So like over here, this was a circle one. We've got the 1961 Continental League, the new Blam co-op season. That just helps me identify that this is a co-op project. These ones up top for Q1 are completed, and once things get completed on my different sessions, I just zone out, blank out the color so it looks like just a white text box instead. So everything from Q1 is complete, and you can see so far I've been able to complete these 6 projects for the year. Getting a little more aggressive with my Q2 planning, and mostly because I've started to use this color code here, as you can see here with Highlight, and again with the 1890s Fight Club, that these are going to be my mini projects now going forward. And the mini projects are designed to just have a couple sessions each month. Everything else is pretty much going to run on a longer time frame. Although I haven't decided yet if Fury Football is going to shift to just a short-term project for the time being as I work through some of the other larger projects. All right, so that's my quarterly planning. Right now, I've been really focused on planning for Q2. We just kicked off Q2 last week, actually Friday, I think it was. So what I've been doing is just making sure that I'm lined up and have a good chance at completing all of these projects. So my goal for the month of April is to complete this Decathlon World Championship season, my Legends of Boxing career campaign for Chris the Cannon Carter, and then I am going to do this little mini project with the Highlight Regional Tour. Next month, and I feel pretty good about getting these done, is going to be History Maker Baseball, my 1985 What If season for Tom Seaver. This 1990 NFL replay with Fast Drive Football that's been going on for several months for me. And then a new mini project for the 1890s Fight Club. Each of these mini projects will wrap up each month. So I only have like 4 sessions scheduled here, probably about the same here. And more than likely, Fury Football will fall into the same boat. I don't know if the 1961 Continental League will be able to wrap up by this time, but we'll have a better idea as these next couple months play out. I plan on getting a number of series done myself and just kind of assessing where we are as we get to the end of June. But in June, I am also hoping to complete my red, white, and blue racing season. So that's kind of a look at the quarterly approach. Now, these two over here are ones that are not yet on the map. I've talked about on the podcast, but I am thinking about, with Lacrosse Blast, not going with the full season replay, but maybe condensing this 1974 season down to something a little smaller and more manageable, and that might allow it to fall into one of these Q4 or Q3 project timeframes. The other one that I started but haven't really done a lot with is my Second Season Express. If time permits, this might get a little more gameplay over the next couple months, and then maybe also can be added for one of the later quarters. But I don't think either of these, certainly not Lacrosse, but chances are not Second Season Express either, will be added to Q2 schedule. Right now, it's a pretty aggressive quarter. We are looking at 3, 6, 9 projects to get across the finish line. All right, now I'm going to come back over here and zoom in on current months. Now you can see here for the month of March, which we just completed, these ones on the side are my actual episodes for the podcast. And then I have 2 events that did not get to the finish line. So I'm a little behind on this project. This is my second season, Barry Sanders 1994 season replay. I got sidetracked with some other projects, just haven't had enough time to dedicate to getting these in. So my goal is to start freeing up some space on my monthly calendar to maybe squeeze these in over the next couple months to get myself back on track. But I also know as I start completing more projects, there'll be more space opened in my monthly plan. Down below, you can see we are now into April. So what I've done so far, and you can see they're pretty aggressive. Again, these 4 on the side are the episodes. This one actually was completed this past weekend. Hoping to record this show tomorrow. And this will be my Sunday show, next Sunday show. And then I'll have to probably figure out a couple other episodes to get in to close out the month. So, organization of a monthly calendar. What I started doing recently is just starting to line things up per day. And I will say, like, each week, everything is about condensing this down into like shorter and shorter time segments. So I start with that annual plan and think about all the projects that I want to do. Then I start organizing those somewhat into quarterly plans. And those are always fluid until I actually start locking in the current quarter. So as you can see again, we go over to our quarterly plan. I've said basically I'm starting to lock in. I basically have locked in this Q2 approach here. Now when it comes to April, or even within the quarters, as each month starts up, and usually a week or 2 before the month begins, I start laying out the monthly plan. You can see that I haven't done anything yet for May. and I probably won't until about halfway or 3/4 of the way through April. The plan for April is organized around, first and foremost, what are the two primary projects that I want to get complete, or in this case, three. I want to wrap up my decathlon season. I have my Legends of Boxing career that I want to wrap up, and then the Highlight Regional Tour. Now, decathlon events take a little more time. In fact, sometimes they're so long, like as in this case of this European Championship for the decathlon, I actually have up to, I think it's 10 athletes competing. 6 to 8 is usually what I would consider enough to do like one session. So I actually broke the European Championships into 2 different sessions just to balance out the amount of time that it's going to take to complete this. So I'll complete Group 1 and then Group 2, and that'll complete the European Championships, which is the last event I need before the World Championships, which you can see here. First, the Heptathlon World Championship, and then finally, at the end of the month, the Decathlon World Championship. Now, these have been organized mostly on the weekends. I actually have a day off tomorrow, so I've scheduled Group 1 to take place on a day off because I want to make sure I have enough time to complete these events. They get scheduled more on the weekends. You can also see on the weekends that I have scheduled the red, white, and blue racing. Sometimes those races take me, a couple hours to play out. And the same with a golf tournament. This will be a full-fledged tournament for the all-time greats. And probably take me 2.5 hours to play that out. So weekends work better for that. On the weekdays, I try to plan lighter events that play typically a little quicker. As I said with the Highlight Tour, it's going to be 4 basic stops. That's generally what I'm trying to do with my mini projects here. Might even be considered almost like a micro project, but 4 stops. I'll play each of these. I'm actually playing this one right now on my tabletop. I took a break to record tonight. But lining them up, and what I had done a couple months ago was just decided, let's just call this the mini project day. And, one day a week dedicated to that. I also did the same thing here with my fight schedules to wrap up that project. The fights usually are pretty quick. I did move one of them around because I felt like doing some fights yesterday. So as I was playing out this week and planning it out, I moved it around. The Tom Seaver What If continues. And then you can see some other projects that are longer term projects. My Grid Zone project, the Continental League, the 1990 NFL replay with Fast Drive Football, the Hockey Blast. These are the things that are helping to round out my week or my month. Now, I will say, again, I did this a couple weeks ago, and the one fatal flaw that I have right now in this monthly plan is there's no room for hoops. And I just got Highlight Maker hoops. I got it right after I had built this monthly plan. And what I decided was I was just going to try to be a little aggressive as I went through this month. And then whenever there was an opportunity, I was going to throw some hoops into the mix too. But certainly by next month, I'll probably throw some more hoops as I mix that in. And you can see, by the middle of Q3, I want to at least help finish up this co-op season with the Blam. I'm not completely in control of that, but that's what I've projected that will probably be going until sometime around August. If it wraps up sooner, that's great. We'll see how much I have to put in to help get that across the finish line. So that's what my monthly view looks like. Now, I will say that as I get into each week, what I do is kind of take an approach of just as the week kind of kicks off, I start to look at the week and decide, okay, what does my week really feel like? And I will move some of these events around week to week just to see if I want to shift things around. And, sometimes I just feel like playing a game. If I get to next week or even this week and I'm like, man, I really want to get that hockey back on, I'll just shift some things around a little bit and just make sure that I don't overwhelm any particular week. What I try to avoid as I'm playing out the monthly calendar is always taking the easy, quick events and moving them up, and then all of a sudden leaving myself a week where everything is just a monster event that has to get completed. I want to try to stay within these frameworks of longer events on the weekends or days off, and then shorter events on the weekdays so I can do them like after work or something. I will say, like, you'll notice that for next weekend, I've cleared some space just because I am planning on going away, and I wanted to make sure that I left myself a little bit of leeway so I didn't have to worry about, like, okay, now I'm falling behind on my schedule. These could have been opportunities, since these were already complete, to bring forward one of these two events that didn't get finished. But I'm not quite there yet, and especially since considering that the second season is probably another one that would want to fall on the weekends, it's probably going to wait a little bit. Now, this Heptathlon World Championship is a possibility to move to a weekday, and I might. I also know that we're planning a little, a family trip at some point, and when I get to that, I may want to also shift some things around as well to just, try to limit how many games I have to take. So, for instance, if I was going to be going away like Thursday through Sunday, right, the 14th through the 17th, I would probably want to shift those games around and not have to worry about bringing 4 different games on a trip with me. That might be an opportunity to say, well, maybe I'll just bring like History Maker Baseball with me. And then I would start shifting the calendar around to say, okay, let's bring these Continental League games, or maybe even like these, what if games into this little 4-day span so that we can organize around 1, maybe 2 games to take with me as opposed to like 4. But so that's the flexibility I have on a week-to-week basis. And there are times when I fall behind, as I did last month, and things don't get across the finish line. I will say, like, even this golf tournament was supposed to be played last month, but since I didn't get to it, I just got a couple things done over this past weekend. Had a little bit of opportunity to sit down and play some more games, so I did. Cleared up a day on the schedule and shifted that in. And those are the kinds of things I'll try to do if I know I'm a couple sessions behind at the end of the month. But for the most part, as I work through this month, I've really got my eyes focused on this decathlon project, the highlight, and the boxing. I really want to make sure that if I'm prioritizing anything, it's those 3 projects, since they are due by the end of this month. So that's a basic look at how I handle the monthly and the quarterly planning on my Mural workstation here. And again, this is just a great tool. It's really easy to use. I could share it with others if I chose to. There's lots of ways to interact with others on this project board. So I just find it a really useful tool. Easy to share, like through the link. If I wanted to just, share the link, I would be able to do that through this button here. I could take like the link and share that out. So that is something I've done in the past, like on my websites or elsewhere. Now, one more piece that I would like to share here with the planning that I do. When you're talking about Agile, it's really important to also incorporate in retrospectives and goal setting. So the last piece we will show is when you look here on my website, I go to my blogs page, not my gaming log page, and you'll see that down here I've got my monthly goals and retrospectives. So as I get into each month, I basically just start recapping. How did March go? And you can see here's my March recap. I completed 57 gaming sessions using 12 different games. Completed the Dodgeball project and my Fury Hardball World Cup. Mentioned that Continental League is starting to fade, getting fewer and fewer games played. We're only about a third of the way complete. So, need to pick up the pace there a little bit. Also added Highlight Maker Hoops to the collection, and that took several sessions up, right? And then I also touch on some other things like the Discord server that I'm broadcasting on now, the podcast, just showing like how some of those things are playing. And then last, I will set some new goals for the month. And you can see here that my goals for April, again, looking to do one of these showcase events each month. This time it's going to be Highlight. I want to wrap up my decathlon project, which, believe it or not, started 10 years ago. And then I'm also going to finish up this Chris the Cannon Carter. And here you can see my last goal is to launch this YouTube channel this month, which is episode number 1 being recorded right now. So these monthly goals and retrospectives just help me kind of tell the story of how my gaming sessions are playing out. And then lastly, I can get an idea about how things have played out by going to my gaming log. And what we'll do is we'll just quickly take a look at something we built recently on my Discord channel, which is a data studio view of my gaming log. Now, what this is really helpful is just doing some presentations of the data that I have stored in a Google Sheet. But right now, let's just take a look at some of the projects. And if I go to my Chris the Cannon Carter project, right, you can see that basically this started back on December 27th. So these are all the gaming sessions that I've completed for Chris the Cannon Carter. And this has really helped me to just, kind of get a feel for it, just how I allow myself to plan these projects. I've just chipped away at this project until the last couple months. Then over the last couple months, knowing that this was going to wrap up this month, I've really tried to ramp it up and get a lot more of these gaming sessions done. But usually that means something else has cleared off the board a little bit more and opened up the way for me to focus in on a couple of projects. But chip away, chip away, chip away at this project until I get it close enough to bring it across the finish line. Another example of that would be the fast drive football project that I've been doing. Now this one's planning on wrapping up, as you might remember, going back here, looking to finish this up in May. So by next month, I'm really hoping to finish up the fast drive football project. Well, if I go back to where I started with this one, now you can see already in April completed 3 gaming sessions. In March we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 sessions because I'm really trying to ramp up and get it close to the finish line. But this one started way back in not even just February because there's more sessions here. This one goes all the way back to July 25th of last year. So this project started in July of last year. It's going to wrap up in May. It's almost going to go 10 months all told. And it was just a matter of chipping away at it nice and easily until I was ready to get it across the finish line. That's how these things can play out for you. If you really do a good job of planning over time, you will get to a point where you finally are ready to deliver all your projects in a timely manner. And as much as this looks aggressive, it's important to realize all of these projects, except for maybe these couple in purple and maybe this one, started months earlier. It's just this is when I'm scheduling them to finally come across the finish line. That's the key. You can already see as I look ahead to Q3, I can see this one I've already shifted over here to a micro project. So this probably is going to go away, right? This one's active. This one's active. This is active. This is active. This is active. These are all active projects that have already started, and how much time I devote to them just depends on where they are in the schedule. These are all the way in Q4. I chip away at them a little at a time until I start to get closer, and that's when I'll ramp up the activity on them. So now you've got to look at the quarterly planning, the monthly planning, the retrospectives, the goal setting, and just a historical record of how all of those projects play out. And these are some of the tools that I use to help me deliver the projects month over month over month. If you ever want to use this, again, Mural, free tool. You can see here, I'm on the free plan. I've got 2 murals remaining. I've used a total of 3 so far, so I'll get a total of 5 I'm really not even using these two anymore. I've pretty much isolated it down to just doing monthly and annual plan. And that's it. If you want to hear more about project planning, you can tune into my podcast, the Tabletop Sportcast. And if you join Patreon, you can also get access to Tabletop Sportcast Live, which is basically this episode, usually broadcast live on my Discord channel. Thank you.